So we have seen a little bit of turning, but here we're going to go into some more specifics. What are the steps of when you are going to turn your vehicle, whether it's a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn? Here are the situation or the steps you take to prepare for a turn. There's a lot that goes into the turn before the turn even happens. So many collisions are caused by drivers who fail to make turns properly, and that means they're either missing a step, they're signaling too late, or they're not judging the other vehicles properly, or they're moving too quickly. There's a lot of things that can go into a turn that can make it unsafe and cause a collision due to driver error or drivers moving too quickly, or they're forgetting, they're trying to skip steps, things like that. So it's really important to follow these things when you are making a turn. Here are some hints for safe turning, or like I said, the steps. Always checking for traffic well in advance. And that's traffic not only ahead of you, but also behind you. Remember, we talked about checking your rear view mirror, doing a shoulder check to either side of your vehicle. So checking your blind spots, making sure there's no one there, and signaling your intent to turn, whether it's right or left. And then when safe, moving into that proper lane well in advance. As we talked in chapter 2, paying attention to those lane designation signs or those lane usage signs can really help put you in a position where you're already in the lane that you need to be in to make your turn, and you're not cutting across multiple lanes of traffic at the last second. Another tip is signaling is insufficient time to provide reasonable warning to other drivers. So not signaling too late so that other vehicles can adjust or maybe let you into that lane so they know you intend to turn. Also not signaling too early. If you signal too early, the vehicles might think that you're turning, at another roadway or something, or you're intending to do a U-turn or something like that. So making sure that you've given enough time for drivers to understand that you're turning, but not too advanced that you confuse them. Make turns at a slow speed and keep your vehicle under control. That's one thing that new drivers, I know me, when I was a new driver, when I was doing left-hand turns, I was trying to get through that intersection really fast, really quickly. And so my vehicle was definitely going way too fast. And there's a point where I came up on two wheels. That was a scary situation. That's definitely not what you want to do. As much as you want to go through those intersections quickly, you also don't want to go so fast that you're not having good control of your vehicle. So get used to what's a good speed, usually around like 20, maybe 30 kilometers an hour, right around in that range, slow enough that you have good control over your vehicle, but also not so slow that you're holding people up. Like if you're just crawling through at 5 kilometers an hour, that can be unsafe too. So finding that proper speed to get through that intersection is important as well. When turning left or right, stay in that turning lane. So just like traffic circles, even in intersections where you're in the far left lane and then you're going to turn into that far left lane on the other road. Same thing on right-hand turns. When you're doing a right-hand turn, you're on the far right-hand lane by the sidewalk. You want to stay in that right-hand lane closest to the sidewalk as much as you possible. And then if there's some vehicles up ahead, you can safely shoulder check and move into the left-hand lane when you need to, but you always want to make your turn into the same lane that you are turning from. If there are pedestrians in the crosswalk, do not turn until they have completely left the crosswalk. You see it a lot where drivers will, especially in larger intersections, they'll go really quickly to either beat that pedestrian, or as soon as that pedestrian's just outside of their vehicle, then they'll go. But legally, there's certain rules where, the general rule of thumb is you should wait until that pedestrian is fully out of that crosswalk. But if you're in a situation where it's a really large crosswalk, if that pedestrian is 2 car lengths away from you, you can proceed if they're walking towards you. If they're walking away from you, you can usually get away with it if they're 1 lane away. But those are really situations where you don't, like if you really, it's super busy and you really got to get going, but most of the time, just wait. That extra couple seconds of waiting for a pedestrian to exit and fully, safely get out of the crosswalk isn't going to make or break you to your meeting. Like a couple minutes or a couple seconds, just a few seconds isn't going to overall change your overall driving distance. So just be patient on those turns as well. Only go through when it's really, really safe to do so. Don't try to push it too much because you don't want to put yourself in an unsafe situation. So here's a video that demonstrates more of what I was talking about a shoulder check, checking your blind spots, things like that, using your mirrors as you're going into a turn. Uh-oh.
Good turning technique means maintaining a safe speed.
Okay, so that showed you different situations of when you're turning and how to prepare yourself in advance. Like I keep saying, be proactive driver where you're looking ahead and planning out your route of where you want to go. So two-way traffic or two-way left turning lanes. This is where that center lane is shared. So I briefly showed you guys this in chapter 2 when we were talking about road markings. This is a situation where you have arrows that are paved on the road or in a certain lane. So this is demonstrating to you that that center lane, these two vehicles are both using that center lane, even though they're going in opposite directions. And they're using it to make a left-hand turn. So this is called a two-way left turn lane. You can cross over that solid line just to get into that left-hand turning lane, but not to use it. You can't use the center lane as a passing lane. It's only intended for vehicles that are going to stop and make a left-hand turn. So you can see the driver in the far right, he's trying to turn into a driveway. Say he's pulling into his house. So he would have approached that. Let's see if you can see my mouse. He would have come in this way. Maybe I can do the annotation. Yeah, annotate. So I got a pencil here. I'll show you as that driver. He's coming across in blue, and then he enters this lane after the arrow on this side. So he didn't get into that lane at the intersection. He came in after and only when he was right at that arrow point to make his turn to go into the driveway. Now, this vehicle, the other one, he would have come, the red here, he would have come this way, and then he would have entered into that center lane here to make his left-hand turn at the intersection. So you can see how both of these vehicles could have been in a dangerous situation if either one of them came into that shared centered lane too early. Then they could have been in a situation of a head-on collision. So these center lanes are really important for you to pay attention, and you're only entering it to do a left-hand turn, and you're only entering it when you're ready to do your left-hand turn. I see these again. They have these center lines on 97th Street here in Edmonton on the north side. You can they use these shared turning lanes all throughout because there's lots of businesses on that side down 97th Street past Yellowhead, just north of it on your way to Northgate. These shared center lanes are used all the time, and that's a really busy road. So even if it's rush hour traffic and it's really congested and you're like, oh, I'm so close to my turn, I just want to get in there, and then you pull in too early just because you're a little impatient and you just want to get past everybody, that is not what that's intended to be for and be used for. And you can definitely be caught and get a hefty fine for doing that because you're putting other vehicles in harm's way, right? And yourself. So two-way left turn lanes, just be mindful. Both vehicles can be using those from either direction. So you don't have to wait until it's totally empty. You can start signaling, but only use that lane when you're ready to and when it's safe to do so. Don't use it as a passing lane. Don't use it just as like, hey, it's a clear lane, I'm just going to use this one. It's only used for turning. But they can be very dangerous because you have multiple users using it from either direction. So use those ones with caution and make sure you're using them properly. Oh, I gotta clear out my drawings. Okay, so four-way stop signs. We talked about these types of intersections. These are called four-way stops. They can also be called courtesy corners. You might see that term come up on your road exam. If they're talking about a courtesy corner, that's meaning there's a four-way stop. And to qualify for that, you have an intersection where there's four roadways, and each one of them have a stop sign. Vehicles approaching from all directions are required to come to a full stop. So each one of these vehicles, you have A, B, and C. They are all there crossing through, but as you can see, car A, he's signaling to go left. So each vehicle has come to a full stop. And the normal courtesy is to allow the vehicle that arrived first to proceed. Because all corners have a stop sign, you would default to the right-of-way rules. So whoever got there first gets to go first. If the two vehicles arrive at the same time, again, you allow the vehicle on the right to proceed first. So in this situation, say all three vehicles got there at the same time, A, B, and C. Who has the right-of-way first? The car on the far right is C. So he gets to go over B. So he's going straight. And then B, once C's cleared, then B would go. He's going straight. And then A would get to go, and he's going left. So you can see there, that's just everybody took their turn, but they all went through the right-of-way rules first. U-turns. So U-turns are when you turn your vehicle around at an intersection, and you're turning your vehicle around and you're using traffic lanes where they have opposite traffic traveling in that direction. So U-turns can be very dangerous because there could be oncoming vehicles coming towards you, and you're moving really slowly trying to whip around and go the same flow of traffic. So they're not very easily to maneuver. U-turns, they're not as easy as merging or simply turning. They're definitely more dangerous because you're crossing over into oncoming traffic lanes. Also, depending how big your vehicle is, your vehicle could swing out quite far and go over multiple lanes just to make a full U-turn. So you'll see that U-turns are not often permitted in intersections, and most situations, especially bigger intersections, you're going to see no U-turns allowed. But this can be also used on different roadways, alleyways, things like that, where they prohibit the use of U-turns. On page 67, it kind of talks about different U-turns. You are not allowed to do a U-turn in an intersection, for sure. You can't do it where the sign prohibits it. Also in urban areas, U-turns are not permitted on roadways between intersections, on alley intersections, where one or more of the roadway is on an access to a public or private parking lot. And then outside urban areas, if you're on a highway or traveling to different cities, you can't do a U-turn on a curve. And that's because other vehicles will not be able to see you. And if they're traveling on a highway, they're going at high distances. They won't have enough time to stop once they do see you doing that U-turn. So can't be doing U-turns on curbs where other vehicles can't see what you're doing. And you cannot do them when you're approaching or nearing the top of a hill. If you're going over a hill, can't do U-turns there either because vehicles on the other side of the hill won't be able to see you.